Thank you. Hello. So we had our paid media night out last night, so I'm a bit ropey, uh, and I apparently was singing Elton John on the karaoke. That was fun. So this is a company we set up sort of 6 years ago. Journey Further. We do all services. Where my background is in PPC. So I'm paid media director. I've been doing it for about 13 years, but PPC is where my heart is. So everything today is going to be about how we can utilize the best techniques in PPC, the latest things that are happening with Google, and how we can use it for advantage. There are little bits about organic and social in there, just to give it a bit more diversity than just PPC. So here we go. I would say that actually the reason we went out last night, a big part of what we do at our team is to debate the latest techniques to try and figure out how we use this technology. John, who's kind of here listening today, runs our debates. So we do talk about, how you use these things. And it's not always as straightforward as, Google says something, you do it. Sometimes you really do have to think about what it means for your business and how you use these tools that are available to you. So I want to tell you all about the amazing thing that's happened in PPC, which is AI. Kind of 5-6 years ago, people would talk about AI is coming, it's going to take over, there'll be no jobs, all that kind of stuff. It really has, it's arrived. So today's presentation is all about how you can start to use it and get the best out of it. And you need a real mind shift with this. It's taken us some time to do, and I think it's worth considering rethinking how you do everything when it comes to using these tools. So my presentation is on artificial intelligence in digital marketing. I have to do something about Skynet, so there it is. 3 things I want to talk about today. First one is, what do we mean by AI? What is AI? Because people get confused about what that is. So I'm going to actually ask you to start thinking about how AI thinks. Second thing is going to be, how do we use it? What are we actually doing with it today? And that's the bit where I see a lot of presentations where people talk about theoretical things. Like, what are we literally doing with AI right now? And the last one is, well, if the machines are doing all the work, then how important really is the analyst? Is John's job safe? And really the answer is, how important the analysts? Well, V for very, very important. That's my favorite line. We need to understand AI. So first bit is on how do we understand AI? How does it work? How does it function? Before we use it, a good quote here. By far the greatest danger of artificial intelligence is that people conclude too early that they understand it. We have seen that time and time again in our team. You switch on smart bidding, you switch on RSAs, you switch on some technology that uses AI, and things can go really, really badly, really, really quickly. So you need to understand exactly why it's doing the things it's doing before you start putting a lot of budget into this stuff, because we've had clients spend, £60,000 more than they meant to spend because you've got the wrong settings. That is scary. Scary for a business owner, scary for a marketing kind of professional. So you really do need to know what you're doing. I would say that experience of using this is quite key here. So I want to give you an example that will help. You may have already seen this, you may already understand it. If you don't, this is a really good example of how AI thinks. It doesn't think like you. And that's the key thing here. So the video, I think it's going to start playing. Yeah, it started playing. So the video's going to start playing here. And this is a game from like the 80s or something called Breakout, where AI is given a paddle that it moves across, a bit like Pong. And the idea is it hits the ball back and it scores points by breaking bricks. But it's not told anything about the game. All that happens is it's given access to this paddle, it's allowed to move it left to right, and it's been given a total point score at the top. Other than that, it's given nothing. And what you saw at the start of the video is that the first thing AI does is it goes, well, what happens if I don't move the paddle, if I just leave it on the right? And it does that for quite a long time. And if you've ever worked in PPC or marketing, this is essentially giving your campaign a budget and going, go away and find me some conversions. And the first thing it does is just sits there and does nothing. And you're kind of like, well, do something, please. Or it spends all of your budget in the first hour, which can be very frustrating. And you're kind of like, it needs to learn how to do these things, but it really doesn't know what it's doing. It thinks very differently to you. So you can see what happens here is over the time, 52 hours here, it's starting to learn how to hit the ball back. It has ultimately more control over that paddle than a human ever will. It can move that paddle super accurately and very, very fast. So it can actually hit the ball back at super speeds. It can't do it 100% of the time if it gets the angle of the ball wrong. So it starts to learn over time which angle to hit it in order to get the ball to come back in a position where it can reach it in time. And then later on, I don't think it's shown it yet, but after a number of hours, it figures out that if it creates a channel up the side of the bricks and hits the ball into that channel, then the ball will, there you go, the ball will bounce around the top and score more points and complete the game faster. So it's learning, and it's getting to the point where now, here as you see, no human could do that. So in the first instance, it can't even play the game. It doesn't even understand what a child would understand, which is hit the ball back, for God's sake. But by the end, it's absolutely smashing this game. And that is what we see when we apply AI to anything we do within marketing, as long as it has the right controls and enough data to understand what's going on. So there's machine learning. I hope that gives you an understanding of it. I'm going to move on. So the takeout from that really is, forget artificial intelligence. In the brave new world of big data, it's artificial idiocy we should be looking out for, and you really should, because we have seen it time and time again. How wrong these machines can get things compared to how a child would even think about it is incredible. So you really have to understand what it's going to do and why it's going to do it, so you can basically give it a lending hand and say, hit the goddamn ball back. There you go, that's a good quote from Tom Chatfield. Some examples, just to give you a feel for this. So examples, this might happen to you. Why didn't I get any sales today? So the AI says, well, I just tested not spending anything. Seems like a good test to run. The analyst, yeah, we probably should have told it to actually, spend something. That would have been a good idea. That's good. It's basically the equivalent of just not bothering to move the ball, like to just let the ball fall. See what happens. So there are certain tests that it doesn't need to do. A human can step in and say, don't do that test, please. That's not a good test. Next one, how much did we spend? That's a big one that we, that makes your heart go like straight down. If anyone's had that feeling of I've overspent my budget, I've spent my entire month's budget in the first hour of the first day, that feeling, that can happen. I wanted to see what would happen if I just spent £1,000 per visit. Who knows? Maybe by spending more per click, that person will buy all of our products in one go, and it'll all be worth it. Analysts, yeah, we didn't put a budget cap because we didn't think it would do that, and suddenly all your budget's gone. Next one, all of my visitors just seem to be going to my blog and then leaving. This is a really, really interesting one. This is something that happens time and time again, and it's difficult to explain to even our own analysts in the team how important it is to set the right goals. AI, I found a way to drive 1,000 conversions. Analysts, oh, we gave the blog page a conversion value. Oh dear. This happens, this really happens. If you change your conversion goals, AI will find a way to basically game the system and get you loads of conversions if it's from cheap traffic and it's stuff that doesn't really matter to your business. So it is so important that you actually put the thing that you're trying to achieve into AI. We'll come on to some more advanced things in value-based bidding in a little while. So, key takeout, it's super powerful. AI, you should be using it. You should be looking at ways to adopt AI in everything you do in marketing. It's open source now. You can start to use this in your own ways. But don't forget that it is also very, very stupid. I mean, the irony that it's called smart bidding in Google Ads. Really. So how do we use it today? So the revolution has happened. The AI revolution has happened, and cheekily here, while you're at home, which basically, it took off in 2019 for Google. So there was this real turning point where we would be cynical about using any machine learning driven sort of solutions by Google, up until about 2019, when it started to win most tests we did, and it was a real turning point. And coming into 2020, it got to the point where there was absolutely no reason why 95% of our clients weren't using this, and the ones that weren't using it were doing it because their goals were too bespoke or their data was too fragmented. But now I think, even coming into this year, I would say most of our accounts now use this. It's kind of going to 100% sort of smart bidding, RSA, AI-driven techniques, and it drives super efficiency, and it can do all sorts of things. So this can be quite disturbing. What can it do? It can decide on your goals for you. It can look at what you're doing on your site and what it thinks is a transaction or what it thinks is a success, and it can tell you what it thinks you should be putting as a goal. It can figure out what is good for you, what is good for your business. That is scary. Creative. I hear a lot of people, even now, talk about how, creative is the last thing machine learning will be able to do. It's the last thing that humans will be great at. No. The machines are already doing creative. They can already drive iterations on your own creative. They can already suggest new creative. I would say it's not that great yet, but the fact that it can do it means that we're in real trouble. Like, creatively, it's going to be our job to supply it with assets. It's going to be the machine's job to create the ads. Optimization, absolutely nailed that. I mean, smart bidding, performance max, if you've ever heard of performance max, basically one click, go. That's scary. Error correction, not so good at. So this is where the human does come in, I think, is spotting errors. It doesn't know what's wrong. It doesn't know that paying £1,000 a click is bad. It doesn't know that spending your entire marketing budget in 1 hour is a bad thing to do. Error correction sits still firmly within the analyst's role, and that's very, very valuable, Not allowing the machine to spend all of your budget is a good thing to pay your analyst to do. Reporting, pretty good, I'd say. Still very much based on what you want to achieve as a business. So a lot of reporting is bespoke to you. It's kind of, you should be thinking about what's right for your business, what matters to you. So the machines don't really have that one yet, but they're good at sort of automating it for you once you give them the guidance. And then the last part here really is, it's the kind of the dividing factor is that the machines are becoming really, really good at telling you what is going on, and the analysts are finding their real niche in telling you why it's happening. Our job is moving from doing kind of manual labor over to explaining, talking, reasoning, adding context to what's happening. That is what we're doing more than anything now. It's not just us that says this. This is Scott's favourite person, Freddie Valleys. It's called Unlevel the Playing Field. It's all about how you utilise AI and how you get the best out of this technology and how you should be using it and the future techniques. So it really is, it's saying the biggest mind shift in PPC history. It's not just us, it's our experience, but other people are backing this, and I think you really should spend time thinking about it. One major thing that will change your business overnight, so this is the big one in terms of what we've seen the most success on, is moving to what Google coined as Smart Bidding 2. I think they've kind of reverted a bit on that now. They call it value-based bidding now, but it's the same thing, Smart Bidding 2, value-based bidding. The idea is that you don't want to just tell Google or AI what your goal is. You don't want to say, I want to sell a product. Because that means that if if your conversion rate is 5%, then the machines only have that conversion segment to go from. The only thing they know about good customers for you is those 5% that convert. They don't see any difference between the customer who landed on your site and bounced immediately versus the one who looked at 10 products and almost bought one but just couldn't afford it or wasn't the right time for them. There's a huge difference between those two people. And so the best thing you can do right now is go in and make sure you are applying as many different conversion points to your activity as you can, but appropriately valuing them. Saying actually the value of customer A here who's created a lead, it's qualified, it has a sale value of 150, making sure all that data is in there for all those points along the funnel. Whereas, customer B here is a very interesting one. Customer B did very little. Came on the site, created a lead, but didn't go through with it. Don't discard that. Give it a value. The value of that is worth, in this case, let's say £10. It's a percentage of an actual sale, but at least the machine learning can now see that that was a good customer versus D, who did nothing. D just left. D didn't care about your product. So give the machines more data, and they will do a better job for you. The other example, I think I'm probably running over all the time. So the other example is about retail, same idea, tell it about margins, tell the machines kind of what a good customer is in terms of what they buy. It's about, tell it you want more people to buy your full price products and not your sale products. And it will do that. It's really good at finding ways to actually sell the stuff you want to sell. Best example I saw of this was a holiday client who wanted off-peak bookings, not peak bookings, because they'll sell all their peak bookings. They just want the off-peak. Smart Bidding found a way to actually get those types of bookings just simply by giving them a value and no value to peak bookings. So if you've got a challenge like that in your business, that's a good one. Why does it do this? How does it do what it does? This stuff, it's scary, but it's true. I think we touched a little bit on the last presentation about what Google knows about you. They know everything about you. They know all the things you do. Now, this may change over the next year with sort of cookie rules changing and sort of going towards confederated learning, but at the moment, they know everything you do, and they use this to determine whether you will buy. So when you switch AI on, what you see is that actually it may just stop bidding for certain people. It may go, I'm just not going to serve an ad to Chris because there's no way he's going to buy because he wasn't watching a video about this yesterday. He wasn't, he didn't have the right thing for breakfast yesterday. So scary but true. That's how it uses it. I would say that the idea of us still doing manual work versus AI is the equivalent of this. If anyone's familiar with this, I spent a lot of time looking at this image. Humans versus Google. So should you automate or should you do it yourself? Well, basically trying to do it yourself is like trying to play pub quiz against Google, where actually there's 3,000 questions per second. All the questions are encrypted and you've had 5 pints. So, so that is basically what you're up against now. There's no winning. Here's an example of ads. We touched on ads earlier. I think there's a pet theme, seems to be emerging here. Cat food. So AI can actually do ad copy for you now. It can figure out the right copy. So it takes one example here of a customer who's interested in cheap cat food. Scrooge. So this is cheap cat food, and it goes for an ad that talks about discounts, about pricing, about it plays the message back to the user that is relevant to them, even though they've just searched for cat food, but it knows that user wants cheap, they want fast delivery, they want quality. They want value for money. Whereas it can then determine that user B, actually, even though they've searched the very same thing in your account, they need a different set of ads, and all those assets are in your account. And so for user B, Dolores Umbridge, if anyone's familiar, that person gets an ad that's all about the emotion, about doing the best for your pets. And this is the same account, same keyword, but using the signals and what it knows about the person to tailor the ads to them, to make them more interesting to that person, to make them buy. This is very good in terms of like the ability it now has to drive kind of attention, click-through rate, and actual purchase. It's scary how it does it. A human cannot sort of choose 2 ads for 2 different people in the same search term. This is the only way you can do it. It doesn't just go PPC. I said I'd give you some more examples. You can use open source machine learning, usually by Microsoft or someone like that. So this is powered by Microsoft. This is a way of decrypting the Google algorithm for SEO purposes. The idea is this one's purely about sort of content. So what content should you put on your pages in order to rank for something? Well, for years, sort of our PR teams and SEO teams have tried to sort of figure out, well, let's get loads of keywords into the page. Let's try and make it obvious to Google what we do. Well, now you can use machine learning to look at everybody who ranks for a term you want to rank for, what content they have, and decrypt what's important. What are the patterns that emerge between 10, 20 different players for those who rank? And therefore, when you're writing your content, it gives you guidance. It says, you should write about this because everybody who ranks for pet food says this. So use machine learning for all sorts of interesting challenges. So finally, the role of the digital marketer. So this is quite a nice one. Elon, very topical at the moment. AI doesn't have to be evil. It's not evil, but it will destroy you. If AI has a goal and humanity just happens to get in the way, then it will think nothing of basically destroying us. No hard feelings. And it's true. It's true. I mean, if AI was to do our jobs, it wouldn't care. It would just do our jobs, and that's it. We'd be out. There's no more digital marketers anymore. It does everything. So it's very, very powerful. But fortunately, there is a good side. So we have a role to play here. We talked about how stupid it can be. Our role now is moving to this concept of we are 3 different things to AI. Firstly, we are the teacher. So the teacher, we teach the AI. We teach it what the right goals are for your business. We teach it how to set the right values, how to value things. And we teach it how to work with your business. Your business is bespoke. It's different. It's different to every other business AI has ever seen. It doesn't understand that you have this really weird thing that you do, that you've done from day one, where you give customers a call before you ever sell anything to them. It doesn't understand that, so tell them. Tell machine learning that's what happens. Let it work with that. And that's our role. Second thing we do is pilot. So once it's in play and it's running, we are the pilot. So we make sure it's got its limitations, that it doesn't let the ball drop, that it doesn't overspend your budget. We manually adjust where we need to if it's going wrong. If there's changes in your ad copy that cause a change in performance, we can manually adjust. And we can help it to sort of go through peak periods. Black Friday, Google always say, machine learning can handle Black Friday, it knows it's coming, but sure enough, you get to Black Friday and 10 hours in, it hasn't bothered to increase the bids, and then the next day after Black Friday is finished, it starts spending loads because it can see the conversion rate's gone up. You're like, too late machine learning. And the final one, the medic. So we are here to resolve issues, and there are issues, so it goes wrong in some spectacular ways. So our job is to figure out when it's gone wrong, set alerts, take immediate preventative action, sometimes just pausing the whole campaign so it doesn't go crazy and spend all your money. Diagnose what's gone on, fix it, get it back on track. So that is where our value is. And just to illustrate, I think this is what's going to happen over the next 5 years, is that the number of hours you get from your analyst is going to be decreasing, but the skill that you must demand from those analysts is going to increase because their job is to protect you, make your business work with this technology. Final bit. So this is my analogy, basically. We were all driving buses, and then Google came along and said, here you go, here's a rocket. It goes really fast. And we all got in, and we had to go. And we crashed it into the moon. So that's the analogy. So we need to learn how to drive this thing. We need to learn how to do a better job with it. Thank you very much.